Welcome one and all to the Mirth Quake Web Show. My name is David Batterina, and for the next hour I will be your host through the mayhem and insanity of exploring all things creativity. The show exists to help you, the creator, connect with fans, friends, and peers by showcasing not just your work, but your brain, your processes, and personality. It also exists because I like to mess with people. So please like, subscribe, hit the bell. We're streaming on Tuesdays, Thursdays, as well as right now, our very first group show is about to happen. Over the next hour, expect some deep conversation, lighthearted fun, and prying open the creative brains of my guests. And let me bring everybody on here, and we'll just go around. We've got a KB, we've got a Stevie, we've got a Molly, and we've got a Brandon. Greetings, everybody. Good night. How are you?
Hello.
Hello.
Howdy. So first group show. We're going to see how this all works. But I'm just expecting some nice lighthearted fun, relax. Nothing is too serious now. I just want to have some good conversations and all that kind of stuff. So I figured we'll start with a little bit of this or that. This is our fast way to get to know everybody. Before I get into individual questions for everyone, I have one for all of you, and we're going to go around. And it's the first one, and it's the one that I've been asking everybody. I'm going to ask you again, KB. If you would you rather travel in a homemade hot air balloon or a janky submarine?
My answer has not changed. The homemade hot air balloon all day.
Homemade hot air balloon. Brandon, homemade hot air balloon or janky sub?
Oh yeah, hot air balloon.
Hot air balloon, Molly?
Yeah, subs are too complex.
All right, Stevie?
I was waiting for this. I knew you were going to ask it again. Hot air balloon, 100%.
I'm by myself in this freaking sub right now.
At the bottom of the ocean.
Trying to see the Titanic.
My thing is, like, if it's gonna fail, at least like for me, it's over quick. You guys just have the terror of the ground coming at you at like speed, you know.
Also,
it takes longer to drown than it takes to splat. You know what I mean?
I kind of feel like the issue is the hot air balloon doesn't become homemade in the air. It's homemade the entire time, so it's probably not getting off of the ground. There's a good chance you might get 5 foot in the air.
It takes the hot air balloon out of a plane.
Yeah.
There's that.
This is not a parachute.
Let me give you a bunch of this or that questions. We'll go around. KB, I'm going to start with you. I'm going to give you 5, and we're going to go around, right?
All right.
First one, polka or death metal?
Death metal.
Death metal it is. Beach or mountains?
Mountains.
Mountains. Haunted house or enchanted forest?
Oh, man. Have you read my book, Enchanted Forest?
Of course. Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
We knew that. And I'll give you one more. Catapult or trebuchet?
Trebuchet. I'm a big dude. We need the counterbalance, you know.
Brandon, you're up. We got Brussels sprouts or broccoli?
Ooh, I gotta go broccoli. It's classic.
It is.
Yeah.
Let's see. Never hear music again or only ever hear kids bops?
Oh my god.
Aren't those the same question?
This is so hard. Yeah. I'm gonna go no music ever again. Over kids clubs.
All right. Own a castle or own a tank?
Well, I need a place to park my tank, so a castle.
Castle it is. Mind reading or shape shifting?
Shape-shifting.
Shape shifting. One more. Tea or coffee? Easy.
Coffee.
Coffee it is. All right. You took a minute for that whole never music or only kids bops. I'm kind of surprised.
It's a seriously difficult question. Yeah. How much torture can I handle versus just longing? You know.
That's true. All right, Molly, you're up. We've got let's see, sweet or savory?
Savory.
Savory. We've got superheroes or supervillains?
Superheroes.
Superheroes. Zombie apocalypse or robot overlords?
Robot overlords.
Okay, I don't know which one's better. Read the book or watch the movie?
Read the book.
Read the book. Last one, flying cars or underwater city?
Underwater city.
Yet the janky submarine was no good.
Hey,
The underwater city's not janky.
I have a lot of faith in strangers, so if someone else built this situation,
It's all right.
I'll trust it. You know, like I'll go on a roller coaster. Don't tell me how it's made.
Yeah, no, yeah, for sure. No, I like going on those like just when the guy's done, tightening a couple bolts. That's usually the best time. All right, so Stevie, you're up. You ready? We're going to go. First one, barbecue or ranch?
Barbecue.
Barbecue. Christina or Brittany?
Oh, man, you don't know how young I am. Let's go freaking Christina.
Thanks. Virtual reality or augmented reality?
Ooh, for future's sake, augmented reality.
Yeah. That's kind of what I would lean to. Fantasy or sci-fi?
Fantasy.
Fantasy. Last one, time loop or parallel universe?
Probably parallel universe, because that's not my problem.
That's right. Right. There it is. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. We get to know you a little bit through some of those. I would say, pretty well expected answers on those. I think the winning question is never music or only kids bops. To be honest, that's a good one.
You got the right answer.
You might would have to put a gun to my head for me to actually have to make that decision. It's that's
what
hard.
Kids Bop. Like if it's kids bops, but it's like it's like Tool, but kids bops. Like that might be a bit much, you know.
Is it constant, or can you listen to it when you want to?
Whenever you want. It's just the only available music.
Okay, but it's not like you have to hear it all the time.
No, that would be really awful.
Oh no, there's no world. I'm not gonna say what I would do about that on live stream.
Yes, always hearing the Nyan Cat song or like what? Yeah, no, we're not gonna do that. So what I want to do now is give you each the floor for 30 seconds or so, and we'll go around and just introduce yourself now that we got some of that fun stuff out of the way, and talk about whatever you want to talk about. KB, you're up, and off you go.
All right, I'm KB Carlisle. I've talked about all my other books a lot, so I don't know where he's at on your screen, but I'm working on a book with that goober down there. Really fun project that actually you kind of inspired, David. So we're making a D&D book, kind of like Space Pew Pew, and it's fun so far. We've been talking about a lot of cool stuff, and we've got the characters made, and we're having a lot of fun with it. So that's me.
All right, cool. Brandon, you want to jump in, and floor is yours. And who are you and what do you do? Let's go there.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah. So go by J. Brandon Lowry. It's my pen name ish. I like to write just about anything, right? So my first book was a collection of flash fiction that ran the gamut from literary fiction to sci-fi, fantasy, all kinds of stuff. Debut novel, there we go, The Glass Frog, young adult fantasy, takes heavy inspiration from Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman, the sort of, the English style, just that really dry wit and humor sort of thing. Yeah. And then now I'm working on something completely different, writing a thriller novel from the point of view of the serial killer. So going a little more dark and twisted, and, just throw away all of the marketing and niche building I've done.
So Molly, go ahead.
Hi, I'm a fiction writer, poet, and engineer. I tend to write more fantasy, but I also write a lot of different things. My first short story was noir. It was published by Raconteur Press in this anthology. I have one coming out early next year in a dragon anthology with Inked Publishing. And then I'm hoping my first full-length novel will be coming out of Jumpmaster sometime in 2025, but might be early 2026. That one's called A World Apart, and I've been working on it forever. I feel like the first novel to get out is such an epic journey.
Yeah, for sure. All right, cool. And Stevie, tell us about yourself.
I am Stevie Kendrick, or Stevie K, whichever. I am a painter by trade, but I'm a very hobbyist-related writer. I like to spend a lot of time writing for things that I don't intend to either get out there or get out there to many people. I do it for fun, funsies, as we call it. I am very much into the Dungeons and Dragons and tabletop role-playing space. I have a channel called College of Fools that we are supposed to post stuff on. And we are talking about writing and how that affects things in TTRPG spaces. I also am the proud brother of the guy up there who has won awards for his books, and I'm very proud of him. So, and yeah, listen, it's one more than I got. Yeah, I'm very passionate about writing, especially just for fun. And also, you said I could shout at anything. Shout out foster children. If you have the resources to adopt or foster, you should look into it. That's it.
Right. All right, no, that's good. That's good. Excellent. And so we get to know you all. And the first question I want to ask everybody, and we'll go around. I do hear a little bit of rumbling in the background, so maybe we could do just for now like a mute as we go around, just to make sure we don't have too much background noise. But I'll start with you, KB. And I know you've answered this one before. Wondering if any thoughts have changed on this one. But when I say creative process, what is it that comes into mind for you?
Oh, the great thing about my brain is it's like an Etch-a-Sketch. So, I shake myself around a little bit and everything changes. But today, the creative process for me was watching the chaos at work. I went there to eat this morning because I had the day off, and we just started doing a buffet, and I got called in to help because, I live 5 minutes away. So, but just listening to the random conversations of the customers at work today, it inspired me to write a short story about opening a restaurant. And I actually did my little voice notes thing while I was at work, and we'll see what comes of that. But it's just going out in the world, observing things, paying attention, listening, and then finding a fun way to twist it, whether it's, supernatural or sci-fi, or how would this be if it was set, in the 50s, you know what I mean? That kind of stuff. And that was my random spark of inspiration for today. So
That's good. You got a random spark of inspiration today. I don't know if I did. So Brandon, what about you? When I say creative process, first thing that pops into your head?
I don't know. A lot of planning, typically. I don't know. I do tend to think about it more as a process. And so it's like, okay, this is the thing that I want to do. How am I going to get there? And start outlining and all that stuff. And because if I don't have that framework in place and I just start going, nothing good comes of it. Like,
okay, yep.
It's such a, I don't know. Yeah, this whole process of, like gardening, like, who's our buddy George R.R. Martin calls it, it doesn't quite work for me. I've got to put up trellises. I've got to figure out where everything is going to go. I got to plan all of this stuff out, right? And then, like KB was talking about, just being open and being ready to have those moments where it's like, oh, I can do something with that, right? And being able to pop it in and find out where it goes within that framework. So a little bit of flexibility involved too. But
right, but you're the type where you like to have structure and some planning.
I have so many more notes than I have pages of this novel written. It's ridiculous. Like, I know this character's whole background, I know his life, I know his trajectory, I know where we're going, but then actually getting each scene on the page, it's, for whatever reason, like getting into that headspace is a lot harder to do if I don't have all of that first. So yeah, it's very much process.
Was it like that with your first with Glass Frog?
It was to a degree, yeah. This one was kind of weird because it was inspired by like a pair of dreams that I had a couple of years apart. And so the dreams gave me like 6 or 7 major scenes that I knew I had to hit. And then from there, filling in those dots, that's where the rest of like planning and stuff came in.
Nice. All right. Molly, what about you? When I say creative process, what is it that comes into your mind?
For me, it's 2 things. I have a lot of ADHD, and that seems like a very common brain type in speculative fiction writing. So it's not about idea generation. Like, there's always too much rattling around up there. So it's about actually going from an idea to completion. And so the 2 things for that are, for shorter things, I can just kind of go on vibes. For poems and short stories, like just getting 1 or 2 emotional beats and then letting like the characters kind of fill themselves in, and how do you get from this to that. For longer fiction, I really need a structure, because my brain isn't going to organically create it. And I will just get stuck in the middle and it'll start to drag. Which I tried writing my first book that way, of just going with it. And then I took some online classes on how to plot and how to draft that were really helpful for me. And the other thing that I think of when I hear the creative process is the day-to-day actions that you need to take to have writing time. And so whatever it is, and it doesn't have to be the same thing every day or every week or every month or every year, that creates writing time for you and the focus that you can actually get stuff done during that time.
So for you, okay, so having a little bit of neurospiciness, right, with the ADHD, is that something that you kind of knew, like, from the beginning? Okay, I am this way. I need certain conditions or certain things, or is that something that sort of developed as you were writing, that you were sort of figuring out, like, okay, I work better this way than this way? Was there some trial and error involved, basically?
There's definitely trial and error, and it's just, having a lot of months where I don't write as much as I want to be writing. And it's not so much something that I've learned, it partially learned while I'm trying to do creative things, but also just learning, the process of learning about yourself and how you're productive and you're achieving the things that you want to be achieving and feeling alive in your creativity as you get older. Like learning, that I really do feel better if I sleep at the same times. Like just because I'm getting, still getting 6 hours or 7 hours or 8 hours of sleep. I never get 8 hours of sleep, but still getting those 6 hours, but like they were from like 4 a.m. to 10 a.m. instead of like 11 to 6 or whatever. Learning that I feel better when I'm sleeping at the same times. Learning that even though, the advice of like write first thing, like right before you do anything else, like I'm not a morning person, so that advice doesn't work for me. Like my brain, like I don't have the organization in my head to like sit down and be like, I'm going to be able to create an hour and a half before I have to get to work and do other things in my morning. And even if I did, my brain is not online yet. So I just learning about yourself as you get older and move through life.
Right. No, I totally get that. Do you have the sleep thing? Do you have a cat that likes to howl at night or?
She has learned to just jump up on my dressers and knock progressively heavier things off the dresser until I wake up and let her in. So she will not tolerate, like I just have to have doors open all the time. She won't tolerate not being in the room with me. But if she's in the room and she has no longer want to be in the room, she'll just be like, but what if I just knock heavier and heavier, larger thudding things until you wake up at 4 a.m.?
That's good. We have 2 cats, and one of them, like she pretty much just like sits by the feeder and waits for it to happen, and then the other one will decide to randomly serenade at 2 a.m. So just like a meow, like echoing throughout the entire place and all that kind of stuff. I have no idea what he's talking about, but it's a thing. All right. So Stevie, what about you? When I say creative process, what pops into mind for you?
So for me, it is a little strange because thinking about the concept of being a process, whenever I am being creative, it's mainly like my creative process is like investment. My mind is kind of always in the space, regardless of if I'm giving like 100% of like my energy to it, or if I'm giving like, 2%. My mind is always lingering in whatever my major projects are. So I'll do a similar thing to where I have like outlines, expectations, not even like very strong outlines, like very loosey-goosey concepts of what I think is probably going to happen in my story. And I will develop these sorts of this roadmap. But while I'm at work, while I'm painting, while I'm driving, while I'm listening to music, I am in my space talking to my characters. I will catch me anywhere and ask me about how my session's going for D&D. I will talk to you for 20 hours. Because it's in here, it's running. But same thing for books and the like as well. Short stories. I have similar to how Brandon said, he has like his characters. He knows their full like paths and motivations. I am like doing that. I'm having that conversation with those characters. I'm also a big voice guy. I will sit in my car and do voices back and forth to like one character to the other, talking back and forth to really like deep dive into like sort of, I guess the creative process comes from I'm taking the characters in the world that I pre-established, and then I'm playing with them like sock puppets, and from that starts to create a form of like oh well, this would make sense for this to happen. So while I have my entire outline of what I want to do, whenever I put my little characters together and make them play, I get to find out where the conflict comes from and why some individuals wouldn't agree with this certain thing, even though they have the same common goal. It's always a process of my full investment, or my investment at all times, regardless of how much I'm putting into it, just to have it in my head and have it constantly circling. So I also, have ADHD, again, very common in our space. It is like a thing that like I can't sit down at a particular time and just put all of my energy to it. So it has to be a constant flow. And then, like 10 minutes before I need to turn something in, I'll throw that onto onto the page. Not really that close to the line, but it's usually I let that sort of brain vomit jump out into the Google Doc right before it's necessary, having pretty much what I want to say circling in my head over and over.
Right. No, that's good. You know what? I'm the same way in terms of like voices and character dialogue. I will do that all the time. Actually, I collect puppets. I collect handmade hand puppets and stuff. I got some from like this dude that was in Montreal that just makes them in his basement, like just some really wild ones, just for fun. But I'm huge on that, and I like to, anytime I write something, I have to read it back. Like I have to read it out loud. And when I do that, I want to make sure like the voice is the voice of that character. Like, you are acting, you're acting it out. And I feel like that's a really cool way to kind of connect with the character, get the tone down, like even some of their mannerisms or whatever else. And like you said, it doesn't even have to do with like a specific scene. It's just the character in that world, in that space, and then everything that's surrounding it. So that's pretty cool. That's
well, yeah, I think the other part of that I really like is that you can learn things about your characters by doing that sort of puppet talk back and forth. It doesn't have to, you can do scenes that would have never or have no reason to exist. I love to make two of my characters who should never bump into each other in the hallway and see what happens. Yep. And it can show like, oh, well, he was a lot more aggressive than I thought he would be. That was a little unnecessary. Or like, hey, these two characters have a weird amount of chemistry for never having met. Stuff like that.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. So let me go around to everybody, and I want to know about music and how music plays into your creating. Not you playing the ukulele or anything like that, but just do you listen to music while you create? What kind of music do you listen to? How does it affect the things that you create? And we'll just go around. KB, go ahead.
Well, that's one answer that hasn't changed. Like I said, every one of my stories kind of has a theme song. I play that before I sit down to write, and then it's either ambient noise or some video game soundtrack. It usually winds up being Zelda, but I try other things. And yeah, that's what I'm gonna be doing as soon as we get done with this tonight. So I'm gonna throw on Hotel California, put some ambient music on, and do my best to get the last few chapters of the third Emergence book done. So
oh, that's good. All right. Brandon, go for it.
Yeah, gotta have music. I'm a big music junkie. I mean, basically my entire day, from the moment I get up while I'm at work, all that stuff. Like I have to have music on.
Gotcha.
So definitely true while I'm writing. There are certain things I can't listen to, like anything that's real lyric heavy. Like, I do, like, I like to listen to hip hop, but I can't do it while I'm writing. So yeah, and also like movie soundtracks. Movie soundtracks are big because, they're meant to evoke certain emotions or themes.
Right.
So if I'm working on a fantasy novel, I'm listening to like Hellboy soundtrack or, Stardust or whatever it is, just trying to get that sort of feel. Or yeah, like I've built custom playlists for my, for my current character to just kind of sit and jam and kind of get into that headspace for a little bit. It's like, okay, let's get into the darkness a little here. So yeah, big influence. Gotta have it.
Yeah, I'm the same exact way here, where I'll do, I'd love to listen to hip hop. Like I'm a huge Beastie Boys fan, so like I'll throw them on whenever, but like I can't write to that. There's too many words, it's too fast, it's too like there's too much going on. So it has to be soundscape style. So for me, like I always fall on things like Tool or Opeth or like progressive metal or like progressive music, like some of the old English bands, King Crimson, Yes, stuff like that, because their songs are like 12 minutes long and it's just like kind of about dwarves and there's not really a lot of lyrics in it, and it just like kind of like it goes and it gives you like it's the good mood. I will listen to certain things like before I start, maybe that are just like a little bit like, okay, like, just get the energy up a little bit and then go for it. But I'm pretty picky about what's in my ears. The difficulty is depending on the genre you write. Like I tend to write humor, but like Tool doesn't exactly lend itself to like funny.
Right,
So
yeah.
like it's a little, but like I can't throw on like Weird Al if I'm writing. Like that's just nothing is going to go right if I do that. So it's a little tricky from there. Molly, what about you?
Sorry if my laptop fan is really loud. I hope you guys are not hearing that too aggressively.
No, sorry.
I can't listen to things with lyrics as well when I'm writing. So I listen to either music in another language. Like I'll listen to Arabic or French or Spanish music, which, like I'm definitely not good and I don't speak any Arabic at all. And my French and Spanish are not good enough for me to be distracted. Or I'll listen to, a lot of times what I'm doing if I'm working in a room with a TV, or if I just have a secondary monitor, I'll put something vibey. So YouTube has a lot of lo-fi things with like kind of moving scenes, like a fireplace.
Right.
So like they'll play like lo-fi fall jams and like have a fireplace or something on.
10 hours long. Yeah.
Right. So like those are enough that I'm not just like, because I feel like silence can be distracting where you're like, oh, I'm just sitting here working. There's just no vibes. So like creating, like lighting a candle and putting on like one of those YouTube things where the scenery is pretty. So that's usually what I do. And then when you were saying how it influences your work, the first thing that popped into my head is like in this short story, there's like, it's kind of silly. And there's a scene inspired by that song, I Am My Own Grandpa. If you haven't listened to it, listen to it. It's very silly.
Okay. But it affects your writing and like you listen. Yeah. Silence writing is a no-go for you, like pretty much all the time.
Yeah, unless I'm like in a very weird headspace, I usually put something on.
What about editing?
But I'll also like work from cafes and stuff sometimes. If I'm co-writing, sometimes I like to have like a fellow author friend or something if it's available to just sit and write together. And then, when they're like, oh, I just got that scene done, or, how are you doing? And check in every so often. That can be, like you're technically not listening to anything, but having another person that's working with you, then I can work in relative silence.
Right. There's definitely oh man, there was a word for that, and it tends to help those that have ADHD actually, and I forget exactly what it was called. Jacqueline was just
body
talking
doubling or something like that.
That's the one. That was it. Yeah. Body doubling, where it's just like having the presence of another person allows you to just kind of focus and get something done. That's pretty cool. Stevie, what about you?
Not only do I love to listen to music while I write, it is an absolute must. I could not do it without music. And I say that because whenever I have music or songs for every character, every scene, every town, every I said scene, but I mean like fights in particular. I have like, when I go back and think about something I have written or something like for D&D as well that has happened, which is a lot easier because we can actually play the music while it's happening.
Right.
But when we go back to something like that, that's the immediate thing that comes to my mind. The musicians who make these songs truly have done me a great service because I can create an amount of these spaces, but it's only once I plug in this certain music while I'm writing it that I really feel the ambiance and I'm really carried there. A really quick example is Out of the Cold from the Skyrim soundtrack. Is a really nice, lovely, a little bit like campy, tavern-esque song, and it has inspired like one of the primary towns in the top region of my world building that I've done. It's incredibly crucial because that entire space would not have been as like out of the cold, very inviting within the individuals of that town or of that like country became like the feeling of that music, because it was like, well, yeah, it's a cold and ravenous place, but the music's nice and you get to come in and see all this crowd. So these musicians I almost want to credit them in everything I do, because they help me to write the things, whether they know it or not. They make the characters and everything very like thought out in my head. And if I'm doing something related to a character or a place, I have to be listening to that music. Otherwise, I feel like I'm cheating. It's not the same. And also, I have from 2023, my Spotify Rewind has my number one song as Evil Dungeon from D&D sounds like it's somewhere in the ballpark of 15 hours. Oh, it's crazy. I don't know what happened to me in that short time period.
Right.
Yeah. Again, I don't know if I was still alive during that time period, to be honest with you. But it's incredibly important. It's a tool beyond anything else that I could ask for.
Yeah. So and we'll go around. Actually, I'll start with you. We'll go the other way. So Stevie's still. Do you find that you can create things or be creative, just like Molly had mentioned, like writing from a coffee shop or a cafe or something like that? Or do you have to be in a specific space, in a specific place, or a specific time?
So as far as it goes with the general creative process, like we talked about, it's an all-day thing. My best time is done like when I'm focusing. I keep bringing up that I paint for a living. When I'm painting, it's a very high focus thing. So I will be, very focused on my like line work and my painting, and I will be gone from this plane. I am in the brain. I am working. But if you were to take me at that exact moment and say, okay, write something, it's not happening. If I'm not in this square, in this office, I'm not writing. It's just not happening. Or I have I converted my garage into a tavern. So I can do it in my tavern too. But it has to be one, in my solitary space, and two, if I'm writing, it has to be alone. I cannot write with a single human around me. If I go to a coffee shop, I will throw up while I try to write. I can't do it. I'm worried about people around me. I went to it once when I was like right out of high school, and I actually took some time off to try and do writing full time for a little bit. And I remember sitting in there being like, I'm just going to do like a chapter and I'm going to get out of here. I wrote 3 words and then almost cried. I was like, I can't do this. I gotta go. I have to be in my space. I have to be alone. I also do a lot of, I don't know where here it is. I also do a lot of, I'll stand at my desk and then I'll also go over there with Google Docs and start talking to my phone, walking around the room, and then come back over to my desk and type. So it's very much like this is my spaceship. And if I don't have my control center, I'm not flying anything.
Right. Fascinating. All right. Molly, what about you? You mentioned you can do some coffee shop writing. Like, how does it matter for you where you are, or is your output different?
It can help me to get out of my house because I am, not an organized person. So when I'm not great, time blindness is a big thing for ADHD. So when I'm at home, there's always other things I could be doing. I could be putting away laundry. I could be, going through all of that mail that I've been ignoring for the last month. There's always some other task that I could be doing that if it's in my immediate environment and I see it, I might start working on something that's not writing. So sometimes getting out of the house, I live with other people who have ADHD also. So they're not super good at time blocking for themselves. And they might just come in and start talking, even though they know I'm trying to work, not as a disrespectful thing, but just as that's how their brains are also. So for me, getting out of the house, often I get more done. But then, if I'm working a lot, oftentimes I'll be working later at night, and then I'm fine with working at home. So it really just kind of depends on what my brain wants that day. But having a rotation of a couple of coffee shops that, there is not a really distracting amount of noise. There's a really nice one where I live that's a tea house, and they have all these tiny little rooms that you can go off into yourself, and you hear background noise, and you can kind of hear snippets of conversation, but it's not so immediate and in your face that it's distracting you. I'm not worried that if like I'm like writing something weird, like someone's gonna be seeing my screen and being like, oh, like, she's like gonna kill someone. Like, so that's a good one for me.
Huh. So my debut novel in 2020, I wrote that the year or two before, almost exclusively at a coffee shop that was just like you described. It had a separate small room, and then like a couple of different seating areas. It wasn't big. It was just like the downstairs of a house that they converted. And but I had to go there, like the I guess the ritual part of it was I needed like my seat, and if I walked in and somebody was sitting there, it was like, well, there goes my writing day. Like I just had a really hard time. But if I could get into that seat, my back was to the wall. Nobody could see my screen, and I could just watch the world go by if I needed to. So like putting some words down, a couple of characters, like some scenes or whatever else. And then, you have that moment where you're just like thinking about what's next and just watching it all. And I find that I don't know, I really enjoy writing around other people like that, as just that ends up being a bit of like the background soundtrack almost, in a weird way. Obviously like we all just want to be able to like be home and sit down and just write 1,000 words every morning. But like, it doesn't work that way. That's the whole reason I'm asking about creativity, is because we all work so differently. Brandon, what about you? How does it work for you in terms of where you would write or all of that?
Yeah. I kind of had to learn to adjust to different spaces. So like back in 2018, my wife and I, we quit our jobs, sold all of our stuff, and just started traveling full time. And that was when I started really writing seriously, like trying to develop my craft and all of that stuff. And so in order to do that, we were house sitting pretty much everywhere we'd go. So we'd show up, meet some strangers, hey, hello, and then live in their house for like a month. So
Wow.
constantly finding, okay, this is going to be my workspace. This is, going to set this up. And then, if that doesn't work for you, it's like, okay, we're going to the coffee shop down the street, or, going out to the park, find a bench, like whatever it is. And so, yeah, I just, like I said, the only option was to adapt. So, it was an amazing experience, and it's great. And I do definitely prefer being here at my desk. But like, this is also my home office. It's where I work. So that makes it rough. Like I have basically 2 separate computers, right? And it's like, I'm not using my work computer for writing, because otherwise I'm gonna be on that thing 10, 12 hours a day, and just gonna end it. You come in just with a bad attitude when it's time to write. So
You're exhausted.
A little bit of separation. Yeah, it's real nice.
Right. I have the same setup right next to me as the computer that has all of the SQL and the databases and the coding and the programming and all that nonsense is like that way, and then all the creative stuff is right here. And it's good to be able to separate that, because if I had to just stare at that one for like, when you're done for the day and then you're like, well, I'm just still here. Like, I don't want to be here anymore, Yeah. Exactly. So I totally get that. KB, what about you?
I've actually been trying to find a good way to write outside of my office since the last time I was on here. And I found a few good spots around town where I can sit, and it's, calm enough to not distract me. But restaurants and coffee shops and, parks and stuff, they're not going to do it, because there's way too much of me to be like, ooh, shiny, ooh, shiny.
Right.
But the library in our town when I was a kid was in a caboose, and it's still there, but they built a new library. So I went down to the caboose a couple days ago, and I just, sat on the little stair, go up to it, and wrote there for about an hour, and that was actually cool. I haven't tried to work on any of my actual novels while I'm doing this. I'm practicing with short stories and just free writing type stuff, but it's gone better than I thought it would. I still prefer like my little space right here. I kind of cultivated it to block everything else out and let me be creative, but it's it's slowly changing. I'm finding places where I like to write outside of the house, and
Nice.
yeah.
All right. So let me ask all of you this, and feel free to, like, if somebody's saying something that resonates with you, jump in and reply and all that kind of stuff. I'm not trying to stifle it to just one person at a time singularly, but is there anything that you've watched recently, or anything, whether TV show or a specific movie or something like that, where you noted just it inspired you in some way, either the dialogue, the characters, the scene, or anything like that? Is there anything you can think of that's maybe it's something you've known for a while, it's an influence for you, or something that you've seen recently that you were like, hey, this is really cool, and it's like kind of getting the idea factory going? So KB, feel free, like, go ahead. Like, is there anything?
I
anything
actually
like,
do have a really good example of something that
I'm looking for recommendations. That's why I'm asking.
I don't know. Well, it's because like I started watching it like 2 days ago, and the show itself didn't necessarily catch my attention. It did after a while, but I noticed that between scenes, depending on which characters the main character was interacting with, it goes from very sitcom to, drama. And it's called Kevin Can Go Himself. I think it's on Netflix. I'm not sure what we're watching it on, but it's really it threw me off for a second, because I was like, wait a minute, I thought my wife was watching it, and I looked up one scene, and I was like, oh, it's a sitcom, whatever. And I looked up again a couple minutes later, and I was like, is this the same show? Like, it's got the same chick in it, but it doesn't look right. And then when her husband comes in, it changed to sitcom. So her husband walks into the door, the lighting changed, the whole vibe changed, and I was like, okay. So then when he leaves, it goes back to drama style, and I was like, I want to find a way to do that with a book.
I've never heard of this.
It's great. You should check it out.
All right, Brandon, what about you?
Yeah. Well, first of all, just to follow up, yeah, I recently just watched the show. That was amazing, so good.
Huh.
Was bummed out that there's only 2 seasons, but they're really good. Actually, well, mine comes off of a recommendation that I had with a workshop folks, just trying to talk about getting into the headspace of this character that I'm building, because not a serial killer, so trying to think about, like, how do you write a character who does this, who is relatable, right? That somebody that you're going to want to maybe not root for, but you're going to want to spend time with, right?
Yep.
And so someone had suggested that I watch the Dahmer series on Netflix, which I didn't watch when it first came out. And I have to say, they did a really good job of making him, I don't know, not relatable, obviously, but like you felt bad for him. Like the way that he grew up, and the sort of emotional things that he had to go through that maybe warped him, right? So finding a way to just kind of turn him and make him human. There's a lot of little things in there that I tried to, I'm watching with a notebook, right? It's like, okay, maybe I can incorporate some of this, some of that, right? So
for research, yeah. What's your internet search history look like, Brandon? That's what we all want to know.
Very bland, very vanilla.
Oh yeah. Friendly serial killer. Yeah.
I never trusted anyone as much as I trust Brandon saying, I'm obviously not a serial killer.
Yeah, I mean, it is what they would say, wasn't it? But...
Well, what about, have you watched Dexter?
I haven't. I kind of missed Dexter when it first aired, and that's another one that I've kind of been thinking about going back to. I think
so I would say just like first few seasons, like do 4 seasons. After that, maybe not so much. But those first 4 seasons are brilliant, and it is, you're like, why am I sitting here rooting for the serial killer? And they do it in just like a really brilliant way, and it's got a lot of dark humor in it and everything else, but like they touch on all these things. So yeah, I would highly recommend give like a season of Dexter a shot. It's a good show. They brought it back, but like I think it was the first run was 8 seasons, and I want to say like the last few weren't great. The last season was just it's considered like one of the worst last seasons of any show ever. So just like don't, just say to yourself, don't. but the first 4 or 5, brilliant, and you've got you've got major people in it, like John Lithgow is in a lot of it. It's just like it's really great, and I think his name's is it I forget the actor's name. Is it Thomas Howell? Maybe, I forget, but he's brilliant in it for sure.
Nice, awesome. Well, these next on the list then. There we go.
There you go. Molly, what about you?
That's the first thing. Someone just sent me this, and it made me think of us talking about your internet search history, where it was this guy, they were announcing over like a person who looked like they were on trial at like 2 a.m. They searched what to do with a decomposing body. At 2:07 a.m. they searched, can you throw dead body parts in the trash? At 2:11 and it's just like getting worse and worse and worse, and that keeps being their internet like search history. And I was like, that person is either a murderer or an author.
Yeah.
But anyway, so this isn't a recent one, but my coming out at some point first full-length novel is inspired by that show Merlin. It's an old show, and it's King Arthur retelling. And the final scene of it actually is what inspired the novel, because these sleeping hero myths are pervasive, like they're cross-cultural. But at the end of this one, there's a scene where it's Merlin in like modern times. Oh. And that's like where it cuts off, because there's always like the hero of this culture is going to come back when their people need them the most. And that part never happens. So that kind of is what is playing into the inspiration for my book of like what happens when society has moved so far beyond that they've forgotten about them, and then they come back. And it's kind of moved so far beyond that I wouldn't even classify it or describe it as a King Arthur retelling. It doesn't really have much to do with it beyond an ancient part of the world coming back into the modern. So there's that. And then more recently, I've been inspired by a lot of like nonfiction audiobooks, more so than shows, because I can't really read nonfiction. Like I just can't sit down and focus on it for long enough. But if I listen to it while I'm driving or doing other things, then that has been really valuable for me, because good nonfiction is very poignant and like very emotional. And it, so like I listened to one recently called When the Body Says No, The Cost of Hidden Stress. And I would recommend it to anyone from a health perspective. If you have autoimmune, or if you just don't want to get sick, talking about how to process emotions and stressful events in your life without storing the stress in your body and turning it into like a cancer. But some of the case studies in that and the descriptions of these people's lives, which I imagine is maybe something similar that you felt with the Dahmer show, is just like they've gone through so much. So that was like the inspiration for some poetry. And I listened to the audiobook for Sapiens, which is like talking about the history of the human race and previous humanoid species. And that one is going to be like inspiration for the next short story that I want to write.
Nice. Is it like ancient aliens type stuff? Is it like?
No, it's not. It's just talking about like Neanderthals and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
And how both our biology evolved and also how human thought evolved. So that like a lot of things you don't think of as evolution, but like currency and stuff like that, where it's just like there's certain pieces that need to be in place for society to evolve on like a massive scale, and what those pieces are. And at one point in the book, he talks about like maybe looking forward what some of those things are. And one of them was, which apparently there's a movie that just came out recently that is a similar topic to the short story I want to write, which is that once we can share memories, once human memories could be uploaded or downloaded into a brain, and what that would look like.
Fascinating. All right. Yeah. No, I mean, that's shoot, that's like an idea factory right there, isn't it?
Yeah. So nonfiction, I think, is like, if you're ever feeling like, look at some really popular nonfiction, because nonfiction is drier. So for a lot of people to like a specific nonfiction title, it had to have really like packed a punch, you know?
For sure.
So I think that can be really good idea generation.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll do like, if I'm on a longer drive, I'll do like a Rogan podcast or something because they're longer, and he usually has somebody on that has just really obscure knowledge about something. There was like the lady that was like she works with bees. She's in Texas, but she has like no gear at all. She just like rips panels off of houses and like moves the hive by hand, like stuff like that. It's just really fascinating. So it's like I'll listen to things like that because you never know. Like there's some idea in there that just comes up, either in the way they're talking about it or what they're doing or how they're handling a situation. It's like, that's pretty inspiring. Stevie, what about you?
I'm gonna say maybe the dumbest thing ever. Learning is such a big one for me about like inspiration, especially like some recent stuff that has been happening in my life. Learning about like general topics kind of in the same way, just to piggyback off what Molly was saying and what you were saying about like learning about things that you wouldn't know. Those sort of things that lean into the nonfiction side, but also sometimes things that just aren't even stories. My wife and I are trying to adopt. That's why I shouted out the foster care thing. And we had to do, I'm talking about like over 30 hours of classes and all these different meetings, things. But it's funny how inspirational that can be by like learning, you know, the processes of how the systematic things work. You know, one of my world building things I do is very societally based and has like a bunch of different government figures in different spaces. You know, so like thinking about how these policies go into place and how it affects individuals at a smaller level. It's like one of those things where I can sometimes see something. I'm sure that most of us can do this. I can see something or learn a thing and find a way that just twist it into a direction of something that's like, oh, well, I'm doing this because, you know, I'm trying to adopt, but now I can certainly write a lot better things in my world building that feel a lot more authentic. In those processes of just learning things, you know, getting certifications and whatnot for random things you would never think would pertain to them. Those are the places I like to find a lot of those sort of inspirations. But also, it's not going to surprise you to say or to hear, but I have to recommend my favorite D&D podcast. I just have to do it. The team behind Worlds Beyond Numbers is they're a group of some like the, you know, biggest figures in kind of modern TTRPGs. And they do one on Spotify that's just like 4 of them. They do all the production. They make the music for the things or for them. Yeah. And they are like, they take the side of D&D and TTRPGs. It's like normally, eventually it's like, oh, well, we do draw a line because it is playing a game and we have to, you know, treat it like a game. They really hammer into having like intense emotions and really like, there's scenes where like our 3 main characters, you know, 2 of them are screaming at each other, and it's like there's something so powerful like watching a scene in a movie that's like people screaming at each other, but whenever you hear it happening and it's improvised and it's people who are on the same page and did not like walk into this with a handshake saying, you know, we're going to argue about this in a little bit, but it's good. It's people who have like a built trust, and also like I could go on for hours about what it means to build a story with people you care about, because when you do that, everyone is like invested into the world and things like that aren't a problem. And these people, you know, Worlds Beyond Numbers seems like a really big passion project, and they absolutely like, they talk to each other in ways that would be physically fighting if it happened like outside of it. But I mean, people playing characters who truly care about each other and finding out how them taking over those characters help them to interact with each other, and the fact that, you know, they can delve into those characters without feeling some kind of way about it outside of the show. That type of stuff is really good for me to look at whenever it comes to making characters, because I'm not going to agree with a lot of things with my characters, whether it's because we grew up different, or that guy's a totally not a serial killer, but it's a big thing for me to like see people like that work on such a project they care about. And also, I have to say, an incredible story, so much more than I could ever even dream to do on like improv. It's a crazy thing
Right.
to witness. It is a constant flow of sort of inspiration for me. So I don't know when it comes out, every other week, whenever they have an actual episode, it's like, all right, what am I writing today?
Oh, that's good. So let me go around and ask you this one. One of your works, pick either a character or a particular scene, or just the work as a whole, short story or long form, and tell me a little bit about how the idea hit you. Because one of the fascinating things for me, just in terms of creativity, is that our subconscious is at work and putting all sorts of things together, and then at some point, just like the surface of water, it pops up like a periscope, and you pull on that little thread, and then all of a sudden that thread gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and now you're weaving something out of it. So I'd love to hear about an idea that was generated in your mind somehow, and just identify maybe where that sort of came from, and what was the process of taking that little spark and turning it into something larger. Right, Brandon, can I start with you?
Yeah, you got it. All right. Okay. I'm gonna pick a piece of flash fiction I wrote called "The Hole in the Top of the World," and it came about. It was, it's sort of the confluence of events kind of thing, right? I had just finished reading. I think it was "Breakfast of Champions" by Kurt Vonnegut, and as I'm reading it, I'm noticing how many of like the rules of writing he's breaking, right? It's like, who does a 1-page chapter, right?
Right.
Or, or one that's just one sentence long, right? Or, all of this like subjective language, or, all these things. And it really kind of impressed upon me this idea that, the words are yours, like do what you want with them, right? So I was like, okay, I'm going to write a story, and that's going to be my style. And I'm just going to throw all these rules out the window. So if I'm not supposed to start, too many sentences in a row with the same word, I'm going to have an entire paragraph where every sentence starts with the word "my," right? Just lean into it and break those rules intentionally.
Right.
Where the idea for the hole in the top of the world came from, I think it was like a Tropicana commercial where they show like the orange and the straw, and the straw comes in, just like, oh, what if that was the Earth? What if aliens decided to just open up a tunnel in the top of the atmosphere? How are humans going to react to that? And, mostly it was a lot of confusion for about a month or so. And then they just moved on. We got other things to deal with until we couldn't not deal with it anymore. Right.
Right.
So, yeah. So just like I said, a couple of
Tropicana commercial.
Yeah, exactly. Tropicana commercial. But it was like, you just see that image. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, let's do it big. We'll see what happens.
That's wild, because as soon as you said that, like I see the commercial. Like I know the commercial you're talking about. Yeah, that's pretty wild. All right. Molly, what about you?
So for my next short story that's coming out, I think I don't know if the original inspiration was that the idea of greed turning someone into a dragon, like, so that dragons have this like hoarding, there was on a mountain of gold kind of vibes. And I don't know if that was the original spark, or the original spark was kind of like somehow certain office settings feel very ominous to me. Okay. And like kind of that investment banker, like we're all trying to like eat each other and like one up each other kind of vibe. And so I paired that with, and this is kind of, sort of an ADHD brain thing where you're like just pulling things in and seeing what the shape, and I can do that with shorter fiction.
Sure.
So I had wanted to write something that was a little bit more ominous and vibe based, because I'm more of a plot person, like a world building and plot, and it's all very intricate and it's structured.
Mhm.
So just pulling from like sensory details and creating a vibe of someone going from being a pretty decent person and wanting to do well at their job so that they can help their aging parents to being sucked into this world of wealth and just accumulation and forgetting why you're accumulating, as that slowly changes their personality and their physical form.
Oh, nice. All right. So it was just some. Okay, so you said you more on plot and like the world building aspect of it, right? Just expand on that just a little bit for me. Like, what do you mean by that in terms of like getting hit with inspiration and then building something out?
So for me, like for my longer work, like it's me sitting down and then creating the plot points and thinking about like the, like in 3-act structure and, what the act 1 climax is, what the, rising action is and all of these things. And I kind of wanted to try doing, and even in my, when I started writing short stories, I had a very like engineering brained approach to it, where I was
Okay.
like, I read a bunch of great short stories. I listened to some lessons on short stories and thought about what the structure of that is. And that, the takeaway being that there's pretty much just 2 emotional beats, like a starting point and an end point. And your job is to make someone feel somehow different through the course of that. And so I wanted to still achieve that difference in feeling that people felt like they read it for a reason, that you wrote it for a reason,
Right.
but that it's more nuanced and less of a plot reason and more of just a vibey reason. As
Gotcha.
So going more off of the language and the descriptions and the way that the heat in the room feels to her at the beginning versus the end. So I guess it was kind of a challenge of trying to write something that in a way that I don't normally write.
Right. No, I like it. Yeah, I'm huge as a just in terms of writing. It's to make sure that I'm hitting on all the senses that I can in a scene. So like a lot of times, like I'll start the scene out with like, what is my, because I tend to write first person, but I'll start out and just like what like this room smells like, it smells damp, and then just like the lighting and like all of those different things you sort of hit on. For me, it's like my inspiration is always something that I've probably seen or been in. I have this thing where I'm really fascinated by abandoned buildings, like old hospitals and stuff like that are just closed and shuttered. Like the desire to run around in there is so strong, and liminal spaces. I visited my son out in Illinois a couple weeks back, and we went to one of the malls there, and the mall was like dead as a doornail. There was like 3 stores in this giant mall, but like I was in heaven just walking around, and everything was closed. And there's there's just one other person like milling around like some little thing over there, and then like you've got this long dark hallway, and at the end of it was like this store that was just selling like this music's coming out of it that's like all upbeat. I'm like, this is the weirdest place ever. Like it was so back rooms. But I always remember those. I try to take pictures. I try to like, just document that because I'm like, this is the feeling I want in that scene. So like I try to make use of those. I guess you call it more plot / scene driven for sure. Stevie, what about you?
Yeah, so I'm thinking back to one of the first like real stories I completed was part of a section of a short story collection that I was going to do that of course I never finished. Don't know if I ever will, but at the time I was very invested in the concepts of like disability and disability like association in media. And I was very invested with individuals who don't necessarily get a lot of like what is the word I'm looking for? Like visualization in media and whatnot.
Okay.
Which is funny that I say visualization, because the story I was going to talk about is called Jonathan in the Dark, and it is a short story I wrote about a blind child who also, sat somewhere on like the autism spectrum, just because it was the concept of the child is that he had like a lot of burst effects, because it's a common thing that happens is you run into a lot of issues. But the thing that like really dragged me there was like the motivation of just learning very intensely about not only blindness and the general complications to come with that, but just like what your day to day is like in those circumstances. And what I really really enjoyed was in that story and the story I did following with a different disability, I made sure to use their perspectives with only what they had at their use. I never used any visual indicators in that story. There was never an I see, it looks, like any of that. It was purely based on like, the taste of, well, I mean, I was going to say it'll spoil it, but I don't plan on ever really showing anybody this. But like the taste of smoke coming from a car fire and like the feeling of broken glass in your skin.
Right.
And the intense heighten of hearing that you can sometimes have whenever you're blind, really noting things is like, no, there's not really a reason he should be able to hear that, except for the fact that he has a heightened sense of hearing, and how how that character navigated through life, trying to make it show that like he navigated through his life perfectly well for him, and that wasn't like the thing that really stopped him in his tracks. The obviously, from what I've been saying and suggesting, the car accident's what stopped him in his tracks.
Right.
But his like doing the early parts before any of the actual incident and the conflicts happen, of him just walking around and not using C's or visuals, talking about audio and like other sort of visualizations.
So what was the generation of this idea? Like where was the root of it for you?
I mean, it was mainly wanting that whole idea of being very in touch with wanting to learn about people with disabilities. So I guess it really speared off from like knowing people who had disabilities, learning about disabilities that I had, and then like really delving in and being like, okay, what does the world look like from them if we take away the idea that like they're different? Well, that's to us, to them we're different than them, vice versa.
Right.
So like what does their world look like without saying this is what they lack? So
Yes.
it really, I will say that I guess the story did come after, because it was more of the thought process, and like this was like in high school, so it was at a point where I was learning that the world was very unfair, and it's like,
Right.
well, why are people mean to disabled people? They don't, it's not there. So like it was a process of being very like a little bit edgy and angsty towards the world, but also being like, well, I have a good outlet to do this.
Yeah.
Have you read or heard of All the Light We Cannot See?
I've not.
It's a really, really well written book. And one of the POVs, it's rotating POV, but one of them is a blind child. And they turned it into a Netflix series, but I really kind of feel like for your interest, you should read the book, because they did such a masterful job of just, I feel like it's much harder in writing to be talking from the perspective of a blind child than in a show to have a blind character, because, we're still watching it. So
yeah. I looked it up and saved it. I definitely will check that out. I actually, very funnily, me and my wife at the time had talked about it. It's like, oh, well, I have done, YouTube stuff in the past, and I was like, I should, do a little like visualization. I keep saying visualization, but do a video of it. And the idea that we had was, rather than describing anything, was just to do a fully black video and just do like the audio cues. And of course you wouldn't be able to get anything other than audio from it, because you can't feel the sensory things. But that is funny, because that I had thought about that as well. It's definitely easier to write. It's a lot more effective, but I'll definitely check that out.
One of those questions too of like, what does the world look like for this person? That's a huge one. I spent time teaching martial arts. I had my own dojo for like about 12 years. And I remember when the first student came in, where I was talking to his dad, he's like, well, he has Asperger's. I'm like, all right, like I don't know too much. Like at that point, I didn't know too much, about what was going on. But that was I learned very quickly, that okay, this person sees the world in a very different way than I do, and takes a lot of things very literally too. So like working with them on it, and then starting to see that, and that actually kind of helps when you do that, to see like, all right, well, I don't have to have a character that's on the spectrum or something like that, but they may see the world this way, and it's concrete. That is their reality, and that's that. We've recently been watching Love on the Spectrum on Netflix, and I absolutely adore the show. And it's fascinating going in and seeing everyone's just how they see the world and each other and relationships and all these different things. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is really, really wild to know that, it's all reality. Obviously you've got two people connecting, but their reality from their point of view is so vastly different than the way we see it on the outside, which is just really, really cool. KB, what about you? What's a thread that you've pulled, and an inspiration that just kind of grew into something, I don't know, totally out of hand for you?
Okay, so we were doing game night relatively recently. I mean, I say relatively because it was sometime in 2024. But we were playing Would You Rather, or no, it wasn't Would You Rather. It's some worst case scenario. We were playing worst case scenario.
Okay.
And it was during the whole time when people were talking about, man in the woods or bear in the woods, all of that stuff. And one of the cards said something about wrestling a bear. And my buddy was like, if you see me and a bear in the woods, you better help the bear because he's going to need it. And his name actually means bear man. Like his real name means bear man.
Nice.
So my brain just rolled with it. And now there's a character based off of him that is starring in a book or series. I haven't decided yet. I'm still kind of thinking it out, but it's going to be about shadow druids, and he's going to be a bear man. And so that's just it's just this weird, crazy, I don't drink, but everybody else was drinking, and they were just being goofy, and we were having fun. And that one statement, I was like, a whole new series. Cool, let's roll with this.
That's the best though. I love it when stuff like that happens, when you're like, oh shoot, I'm inspired to do this entire thing now. I've had that. That's why I have a bunch of works that are just kind of sitting there, and I'm like, all right, I really need to stop thinking of new ideas and just write something. Yeah. See, everybody's nodding, right? It's the same thing. You all experience the same thing.
I mean, I'm sending you a picture of my home screen after all this is done, and it's just a bunch of random works in progress. Oh, no. Hey, what do I feel like working on today? This one.
So I want to shift now, and I figured we can play a round or two of some super fight. And one of the things that fascinates me, and one of the reasons I really wanted to start doing this and interviewing people, is obviously just the deep dive into creativity, because it's just something really interesting to me in terms of we all work so differently. We all have our own, for lack of a better term, bullshit that we need to get around to get words produced and all those different things. And it works so vastly different. Some are plotters, some are pantsers, some you're somewhere in the middle, lawful or chaotic, I don't know. But one of the things that really fascinates me is just from a pure human standpoint, is to be able to generate an idea that wasn't there, didn't occur to you before, and it's real inside of here without it being verbalized or anything. And then we're able to put that out and express it into the world, and even further create something from it, either something physical or whatever else. If I picture something in my own mind and I've got a pile of Play-Doh, I can actually make it look I mean, it's probably not going to be great, but similar to what was in my own mind, which to me is really cool because it just starts at neurons and ends up as like this thing, and for all of us, we write. And so we have that. We have those little neurons fired. They created something. It was a character. It was a scene. All of a sudden there's dialogue. All of a sudden there's a story. All of a sudden there's a structure. Before you know it, somebody else is reading it. And they are quite literally just reading your brain, which to me is just really, really cool. So Super Fight is basically just a way we can test that out and play with it a little bit in real time. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do the music thing and just introduce this real quick, and then we'll get into it. I'll sort of explain. We have to fudge it a little bit in terms of like how it actually goes. But here we go. It is time for Super Fight. This creative game pits our two teams against each other. Yeah, we're going to have teams, by the way. In a battle of quick wits and quick thinking, each team is given a character and a character ability. We'll draw a random location card and then fight it out. The goal is to convince the judge, that would be me, each other, or audience as to which character will prevail in this monumental conflict. Each team is given 30 seconds as an opening statement to state the case, and we'll have a back and forth free-for-all. Once the arguing is done, I'll sound the alarm, we'll throw a monkey wrench into the whole thing, we'll fight it out some more, and allow for some closing statements to determine a winner. Each team gets one respin per round on their character or ability. Okay, pretty straightforward. Yeah, I'm just going to ask you all to argue. That's all. So at this point, you can like turn on the mics or whatever else. I'm gonna bounce out of here and show you the wheel, right? Because otherwise, Brandon, you disappear. We can't have that happening. All right, there we go. Okay, so here is the wheel, okay? And I have it set up so we've got. I gotta move some windows here, real quick. Okay, so I've got it set up. So there was a lot of retyping and a little bit of database work to get this all to work. But we've got characters as an A or B. We've got traits that the characters would have as an A or B. And we've got locations and scenarios. Scenarios is the fun one. That's the one that comes in later, right? So we just want to start off with something basic. I ran some test spins. So I'm going to show, I think I still have them. The first spin I had, I got a dominatrix fighting against your mom.
Oh, God.
I know. Right. The dominatrix was wearing an impenetrable tuxedo, and your mom was armed with a dictionary.
Oof.
That's how it went. And then, so they were fighting on a Zeppelin. And then I was like, all right, like after you would argue about that, we would spin this one just as an example for some scenarios. And we would add this to it. Everyone's in a spacesuit, right? And then like you just kind of re-argue it from there. So it just like it allows for a little wrinkle. I'm going to clear these out just so you get an idea of what is possible on all of these. And remember, you get a respin. We need some teams. So I'm going to go, just since you're 4 across, we're going to go KB, Stevie, your team A, Molly, Brandon, your team B. And we'll go from there. It doesn't really mean anything in terms of like the A or B here. It was just that I had a lot of characters, and if I put them all in one wheel, it would never spin. Like, right? So I had to do it that way. So anyway, we'll go team A. We'll keep it to A and B. So A, I'm going to spin for you guys, and you'll get your character. B, we'll get your character, and then we'll go and we'll figure it out from there. Sound good?
Awesome.
Clear enough. All right. So team A, KB and Stevie, your character.
I'm so scared.
Is a cowboy.
Okay, we can work with that.
All right, we can work with that. Yep. Let's see. And you are fighting against Molly and Brandon's Stormtrooper. Okay.
We have nothing to worry about.
We're good. Can we go ahead and do this?
Now, for the cowboy, hold on. We have to throw in a trait. By the way, some of these are sometimes just really bad too. So like we never know. Your cowboy wears rocket-powered roller skates. Okay. And our stormtrooper. Oh man, hope for a good one.
So does that mean we stole the stormtrooper shoes?
Oh, probably.
Your stormtrooper is armed with a nail gun.
Oh.
Okay.
If only.
This fight is taking place. Here we go. in the distant future. All right, so everybody has a handle on what you got. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go 30 seconds, right? We'll go KB, Stevie. You guys are going to go first. So give me 30 seconds of why your cowboy in the distant future, who is wearing rocker-powered roller skates, is going to be able to defeat the stormtrooper that's armed with a nail gun, right? And go for it. You can both chime in or whatever.
My dear lovely brother, you've seen Cowboy Bebop, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So the very easy thing here. What are cowboys in the future?
Oh man, don't do that to me. I was just going with the thing that a stormtrooper couldn't hit anybody with, with a laser gun, blaster, whatever you want to call it. And they have a nail gun now. So if we just stand really still and pray that they don't aim at the building next to us, then we should be good.
Absolutely. The best case scenario for us is that the stormtrooper has everything in his arsenal to use because he will not know how to use it. And cowboys in the future of Cowboy Bebop have things like these rocket boots all the time, as well as the fact that they're trained bounty hunters. It is well and known. Cowboys in the old days, outlaws. Right. Cowboys in the future, All
right. The chimes are 30 seconds. Team B, Molly and Brandon, you need to convince why this stormtrooper who can't hit things with his nail gun in the distant future is going to defeat Cowboy. Right? Talk it out. Let me hear you.
So I'm not real optimistic about the future. We don't know the state of roads. It might not be easy roller skating. We don't know how much fuel is available for these rocket-powered roller skates. He could just trip himself into the whatever made of roads are made of at that point. We might not even need to hit him.
Absolutely. And honestly, the nail gun is kind of an improvement for the stormtrooper because he's going to have to get right up on you. There's no other option. There's no distance on it, in contrast to his usual blaster rifle, right, where he can all over. It's direct contact. Got it. I'm feeling good. We're nailing those boots to the ground.
All right.
Just remember, where we're going, we don't need roads.
I like it. Okay, so let's go ahead and give me a little bit of Q&A back and forth. I want to know a little bit more about this. The four of you can just chime in whenever and state your case to each other. Let's hear what you got.
Okay, very easily off the jump. If you're going to be able to get close enough with your stormtrooper, there's got to be at least some form of road or walkway, passageway to be used. And our worst case scenario, I believe, is taking the rocket boots off. And then we could just walk away. It's not like...
Or we could just, activate the boot and make it fly at them,
True. We have not... I mean...
What do you have,
Yeah, well, that's the thing. If we have no fuel, we could just use them like roller skates.
I still got my 6-shooter. Have you ever seen
a cowboy that's good at roller skating? Have you ever?
Not once.
She brings up
I haven't, but that's because it's not the future. The future is coming, and I will be that cowboy. Don't make me do it. I absolutely, if they can ride a horse, they can ride some roller skates.
Well, we know what he's doing for Halloween this year now.
Absolutely. Let me call my wife and make sure I can get that in time. I definitely
don't overlook the stormtrooper's armor, right? We're coming into this prepared for battle. We're prepared for whatever terrain. They come well equipped. The Empire's got our back. What are we gonna do?
I so hate to say it.
Are not a weapon,
You're right, absolutely. The only issue is that stormtrooper armor is specifically graded for laser weapons. I hate to tell you, they're not graded for a 9mm bullet. They're plastic reflective for a reason. They're not taking.
You have a gun. You might just be roller skating. You could be a pacifist cowboy in roller skating.
I feel like in this scenario, I'd be surprised if anyone was a pacifist. But you know what? I like that outcome better than everybody's just happy.
All right, so let's add a wrinkle to this whole thing. All right, and let's say we're gonna go. We'll do another little back and forth right there, but nobody has left.
How do we wear our skates?
All right, okay, who's winning it? Make your arguments. Let me hear you.
Here's the greatest bit is our thing doesn't matter anymore, but neither is theirs because they can't get to us. We're the only one with a gun that can do something.
Yeah, we have rage weapons.
Probably elbow their way down the hill.
They're going to be too busy with
Come crawling at us like Samara out of the TV.
We
Yeah.
don't know what hills look like in the future. They might not be crawling down any hill.
But I'm just imagining the cowboy riding around on his hands in the roller skates. But then you can't keep your cowboy hat on if you're upside
No,
down.
see, here's what we do. We do a cowboy stack. One of us is on it, got the hands in the boots. One of us is up there with the guns.
We're making a humanoid cowboy mech at this point for a frankly very bad off stormtrooper with a nail gun. I'll still take that the stormtrooper by default has the of course has the laser gun, but I don't think the nail gun's making any progress if neither of us are going to be able to move. I think our items have practically been nulled.
Like I was already sus about the cowboys rollerblading high-powered skills. Now you don't have legs to even look where you're going. You're going on your hands maybe, and you could just crash into a tree if there are future trees. Like we will be just sitting with our nail gun.
If we're using my personal stat block, my dexterity is not great. So yeah, if we try this based off of our stats, we're probably going to fall on their nail gun as soon as we activate our boots. So
I'm thinking man, no legs, on the ground, cowboy hat tilted, just peeking over because
cowboy sniper.
Yeah, it's cowboy sniper, because at some point it's going to be two men crawling towards each other as quickly as they can. And truly, this is sadder than anything. They both are losing.
What the hell did I just listen to?
We're all losers here. That's what we decided amongst ourselves.
Oh, God.
You know what, Game Master? You're the loser. We're being friends. The stormtrooper, the cowboy, they settle their differences, they fall in love, and they ride off before the Death Star explodes.
We need to help each other out. We've got no legs. The future might be like dark,
We could do one of those horse costumes, except like we just take turns. Probably like a lot of duct tape involved with it, but like I think it could work. And we have shoes too, so we could get around quickly with, you know what, we win. I think that's it. We have our superior aim, our rocket shoes. We could take the DM. I keep calling you the DM, like the judge.
Jax makes a good point. She's like, KB, why are you arguing against me?
Oh, because he's my little brother, and we argued our whole life.
I'm not gonna let you take this from me.
That's good. Yeah, I mean, look, I would say that this is like a really close one. The no legs thing certainly put a wrinkle into all of it. But like without legs, you don't have your rocket boots, but you've got the nail gun, but you can't get anywhere. Like nail gun doesn't have a lot of range. So I'm going to have to say, if the cowboy is armed like a cowboy, I think the cowboy's going to take this one. I'm just.
And by take this one, he means take the stormtrooper on a date because they're in.
Okay. Here's what you do. You watch Tombstone and then you watch Empire and see who has a better KDR.
You're not wrong about that one. Yeah, Space Cow. We got to vote for Space Cowboys on there. All right. Let's do another round and see. I just got to clear this thing out. We'll try for another. Let me bounce out right here and go there. All right. So team B, right? Molly and Brandon, I'm going to have you guys going first on this one. Do you want to pick A characters, B characters? Does it matter to you? Don't. We'll just pick one. All right. So we'll stick with A as like the first one, and we'll go that way. All right. So your character on our next battle. Get ready for the next battle. We've got a hockey goalie. Let's see. And your hockey goalie. Oh boy. Is in a helicopter.
Oh God.
Okay. Hockey goalie in a helicopter. Do you want to respin any of those? Keep it?
You good?
I don't know how we're going to fight that.
All right. Well, you're going to have to fight with... I mean, we don't know where this helicopter is going to end up being. Sarah Connor.
Okay, we got to respin. Sarah Connor's doing nothing for us. Can we respin? What do you think?
Yeah.
We can respin.
We'll respin it.
Okay.
Gandhi.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You know what? I don't need the rest. I don't need the rest. We don't need the rest. I'm good.
Hold on. We got see Gandhi's in rocket booth or something, right?
I just can't believe you passed on Sarah Connor, man.
I mean, he's really young, okay?
Gandhi is constantly taking selfies.
Oh
man. All right. And
Stevie, I'm gonna let you take the lead on this.
Oh yeah,
one,
you're
brother.
gonna take me take the wheel. Okay.
this is the only hope is that the location's messed up. On the edge of a cliff. All right, so hockey goalie in a helicopter, edge of a cliff, and Gandhi taking selfies, presumably because the scenery is very nice. So, Molly and Brandon, give me the reason your hockey goalie is going to win this fight.
I feel like this one's easy. We can already corral him. He's distracted. He's looking at himself with the beautiful scenery behind him. And we just gotta just bump him over, you know? And we've got great reflexes, like we're a goalie.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, how many people every year accidentally selfie themselves off of a cliff to begin with? There's no reason Gandhi can't do it. I think all we got to do is just hang out off the edge of the cliff and watch, to be honest.
Every once in a while, drop a puck, like that kind of thing. Like just
Yeah, exactly.
We don't gotta do much.
All right. Let's hear from Team A. Why is selfie taking Gandhi going to defeat a hockey goalie in a helicopter as he's on the side of a cliff?
Dude, the only weapon we have is the flash on the camera.
I need you all to bear with me. Are we really so devolved as a civilization that we would look a man like Gandhi directly in his eyes and murder him to death? Murder him to death with a helicopter. This is in the end, you may win. You may take Gandhi's life as much as you please while he's just enjoying himself, might I add. But what Gandhi has taught us is that there's only one individual that can have the moral victory. Gandhi didn't raise his fist, he raised his camera to take a moment. You may have blood, but we have memories, and you will not take that from us. I rest my case, Your Honor. Thank you.
That was very moving for sure, but Gandhi's falling off.
No!
Hold on. Let's add a wrinkle into this and see if it changes the landscape. Right? Oh man, selfie taking Gandhi.
Oh man.
Let's go.
Yes,
go
Logan, you can murder someone to almost death.
Let's see what happens. Everyone is emo.
Oh frick.
He's jumping himself. Like, we don't even.
Wait, no. He can be emo, but Gandhi's a pacifist and he will hurt nobody, which includes himself, even if he has the feelings to. Listen, you can still kill him with the thing, but I gotta fight for something.
Like, we might go over after you, but
Fair enough.
we're already kind of dark, you know. Our hair might have been a little bit.
Oh yeah, you're almost there.
You see him? It might have been unintentional.
I'm really just seeing Gandhi with like his camera and like singing like My Chemical Romance. Or like the dark hair.
But he's got
he's got to have the hair going and some low-rise jeans.
Gandhi with like slits in his eyebrows and a couple of piercings.
Emo Gandhi. Yeah, so I'm giving this one to the hockey goalie. I think there's no doubt. You guys had a pretty rough draw on that one. You want to do one more before we wrap up?
Yeah, we need a tiebreaker.
We need the tiebreaker.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I'm going to throw it back. Here, let me just bounce out and throw it back to the wheel. Team A, let's go. You want your A characters? We'll just stick with it this way?
Yeah, we'll take A.
All right. They're all randomized, so.
Mm-hmm.
Well, A seems to be full of winners, so.
You should have kept Sarah Connor. But now you got Rick Sanchez.
Yes.
Full arsenal? Like, I guess the whole thing?
Let's see. Let's see what's going on. Rick Sanchez, armed with nunchucks. Okay.
I think I've seen that.
Yeah, honestly, I can picture it.
Probably.
Team B, here we go. We've got a
Emo God.
And we've got an altar boy.
This is an episode. This already happened.
Yeah, I think I've seen this one. An altar boy throws homeless people. Oh my god.
He needs to be at that altar.
Do we need a reason on either of those?
I don't.
It's hard. Which one do you reroll?
You want to reroll Altar Boy? I don't know how much.
Yeah,
I don't know how much a boy can throw homeless people.
Oh no, that's a valid point. Let's re-roll the character. Hey, you never know what's in these cards, man. There's
You know, I mean, he's probably 12. I don't.
well, you got Martha Stewart.
Okay, but she's a straight up G, so this worked
Yeah,
out.
good time, bro. Yeah, absolutely.
Throwing homeless people.
All right. So
Wait a
Martha
minute.
Stewart,
Is she still friends with Snoop Dogg in this situation?
and,
You don't think Rick Sanchez would be?
Oh, and it's on Planet of the Apes. Okay, so we've got Rick Sanchez with nunchucks versus Martha Stewart throwing homeless people on the Planet of the Apes. Not really sure how that works out. Team A, give me your argument for why Rick Sanchez is going to win this one.
I think it's less of making an argument for why Rick Sanchez is going to win this and just pointing out Martha Stewart throwing homeless people. The only thing that a rich individual like Martha Stewart throws homeless people for is under the bus because she makes far more money than she should. We are looking at truly one of the most evil individuals of all time, Rick Sanchez, who, yes, he has nunchucks, but I think we can all attest he's got something going on with those nunchucks. Even if he doesn't, he's going to have a way to augment himself to make them significantly better. Honestly, I think Rick would just throw them back at that point. Planet of the Apes doesn't particularly matter because I kind of feel that Rick probably made this. He probably just created the ape planet.
Well, if we're on the Planet of the Apes, she's probably throwing homeless monkeys at us.
Oh, man.
I do think that steps things up a little bit.
What dictates a homeless monkey?
All of them. They probably don't live in homes. We have an endless supply.
I mean,
On that.
the point is she has tails to use to sling them.
You know what? I don't like this 3v1.
But no, I don't.
Something to go against impenetrable plot armor, man.
Here's the thing, though. Even if she manages to beat us, Rick Sanchez has, Phoenix Protocol. So we're just going to be right back.
And it's also, it says Rick Sanchez. It doesn't say which one. There are too many.
This is true. All right. So Molly, Brandon, give me your best argument for why Martha Stewart's going to win this fight.
I mean, she's a resourceful lady. She came back from a crushing blow, imprisonment, revamped the whole vibe. And this is Planet of the Apes. I think she's probably been pumping apes. She's been working out to survive in this new world.
In the yard.
She could probably hug up some apes.
I have to ask, was the prison in this universe on the Planet of the Apes? Is that what we're going with?
Yeah, I would say yes. I think so.
Yep.
100%. I would also.
I wish we still had a portal.
Charm offensive, right? I mean, what really is she known for? Decorating, personality. She's gonna charm Rick. There's not even gonna be a fight because she's just gonna work her way in. They're gonna end up being best buds in the end, and then when he's not paying attention,
right, with a spatula. Right, that's back of the head with a spatula. All right, let's throw a scenario in this and see what might evolve from here.
But I like that. Just to make him a perfect pumpkin spice martini or something, and he won't even.
No.
Where's your god now? Rick is done.
Okay.
Analog fight. All
We
right.
do have to back up.
We have nunchucks.
I was about to say, let's back up. This sucks for us. This is a good L. But, it's still an old person trying to throw people or monkeys versus an old person using I think this is just sad. I think
Martha Stewart is timeless.
Yeah.
It said throws. She succeeds, man.
You know what? I'll give you that. It does say throwing. Oh man. I think it's I don't have any better arguments. I think it's two old people doing really depressing things.
And they don't have a limit on how many people she's throwing at us. We have one pair of nunchucks.
Well, I guess I'll at least note that
pile of homeless people.
if we're getting into the lower,
you have to have good aim.
if we're getting into the lower, Phoenix Protocol is not electronically based. I believe it's biologically based. So like a lot of the individual mechanics that he has on him aren't necessarily going to be. By the way, I've never watched more than 2 episodes of Rick and Morty. I am going fully off of like YouTube shorts that I see at 3 a.m. So
well, we're gonna fix that soon. So
I'm pretty sure Rick has like, I don't know, superpowers. That's right, isn't it?
No, Rick doesn't have super.
Let's finish this conversation whenever Martha Stewart passes away.
Let Martha win this one. I didn't know we were coming in half cocked.
Nothing will turn off Martha's charm, all right?
I mean,
hey, in that regard, though, I don't think that Martha would be able to charm Rick because I don't think a single individual ever has wanted to be around Rick Sanchez. I think truthfully, I don't think he's ever.
She turned Snoop Dogg into America's grandpa, so we don't know what kind of power she has.
Yeah, you know, when she makes like the nice turkey Thanksgiving dinner type of thing, like, you know, everybody just comes around, and then she takes the carcass and makes it into like a wreath on the front door and stuff. Like, she's very resourceful that way. Look, I was kind of leaning Rick at first, but as soon as that electronic racist thing came in,
when you took away his power, man.
I was like, no, it's Martha, man. I think we've got a Martha winner.
Martha Stewart will pay for this. This is not
It's a good thing.
What we all really want to know is how would Martha fare against Emo Gandhi, but we're going to have to wait for that one.
Hey, listen, I would rather lose to Martha Stewart than a stormtrooper, okay?
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
That too. Well, thank you all, because that was super fun and I appreciate it. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to wrap up because it's getting late. I want to give you each the floor again and just remind us of whatever the things are that you want to remind us of. If you need to make more arguments for your character, that's okay too. Whichever you want to do. So KB, close it out. You've got the floor and 30 seconds. Off you go.
All right. Well, obviously, if you haven't already, go check out the Book of Rose and Dreams of Gemini. I hear they're great books. I don't know. I haven't read them yet. I'm just kidding. I have a lot of things in the works. Working title is Tavern of the Lost for our D&D project. I have the Druid series book, whatever, that I'm working on. I'm working on that the Bent novel that may or may not come out. We got to see if they like it. But I have something to send you soon that I'm very close to wrapping up that I think you'll enjoy.
Very eager.
And that's it for me.
Nice. Brandon, take it away.
All right, yeah. My next work is going to be a long way in the future, so I'm not going to bother pitching that. But The Glass Frog is available now. Amazon, what is it? I think it's like bookshop.org, all over the place.
Oh, nice.
My website. You can order signed copies if you really want one. Audiobook version is coming soon, which I narrated and did all the fun voices and all the things. So really, I'm putting the finishing edits on that on the audio. So it's going really well. And you can find me on all the things. J. Brandon Lowry, Twitter, Instagram, Medium, Substack, everywhere.
Gotcha. Nice. Molly, take it away.
I'm on most of the socials as Molly Ann McDonough. My website is mollyannmcdonough.com. I have email subscription that I don't send a whole lot of newsletters out, but if you want to hear about upcoming projects that are coming out, this one is available now, the Moggy Noir Alley Cat Alibi, if you like noir tales with cats. Mine has a sassy scientist talking cat. And my next project that'll be coming out at the beginning of next year is in Dragon Mythicana. out of Inked Publishing.
Nice. All right, Stevie, go for it.
Again, Tavern of the Lost, working on that project with KB. Keep an eye out for that wherever you follow him, because I don't know where that's going to be shown off to. Also, again, my D&D project channels, Instagram and YouTube, at College of Fools. I have a upcoming series that I'm, I guess, just now announcing. It's called Fool's Gold, a Fool's Guide on How To. So going over all the basic mechanics of D&D for people who are a little bit too dumb, and just the concepts of like the writing process along with it. It'd be a lot of fun. Follow over there. Also, shout out to Martha Stewart and Rick Sanchez for their phenomenal love story that I cannot wait to write about in my next book.
I think I think it would be the true winner of the evening is Rick and Martha.
Give it up for Martha Stewart and Rick Sanchez.
Terrible.
I mean,
Excellent spin-off series coming. I can feel it.
Any closing thoughts from any of you on either creativity or anything we discussed tonight? We're good.
I would love to one request for Stevie down there, so you can give him a preview of what's coming.
What's up?
Do Merlin complaining about 5th edition?
I swear to God, every time I come around and you guys have your... I can't remember the stuff, man. You caught me off guard. They're pulling the strings in your head and you have no way of telling it. You just have to look a little bit past the pages and you might see for yourself what lies within.
This
Anybody
is how
know where the tacos
discuss
are?
This book. So.
Looking for a flash stand. Yes. Yeah, that's the concept. Crazy characters.
I like it.
I do want to say also, been great to meet all of you. Been very fun to chat and hope to be able to, in our space, have many more conversations ahead.
Absolutely. And like, we've got the Discord there. It's pretty quiet. There's not a lot of people on there, but feel free to pop in anytime and just shoot a question out or have a chat or whatever else. I want to create this as a community, and I want to make sure that we're a resource for one another as well. So if there's anything that you're working on, you need to bounce around some ideas or anything. Everybody that's involved and on the Discord at this point, for sure, like, we're all happy to help and all of that. So don't be afraid to reach out for any reason. Certainly reach out and contact me if you need anything. Or if you want to be on the show as a solo guest, we've got some dates open in November and all of that. If you want to come back on for group one, you are all welcome, of course, to come back on for whatever's open, because these are the fun ones. I just want to be able to have a good time with it. And like I'd mentioned before, this is evergreen content, so it's out there. Now the internet has a recorded history of Emo Gandhi. I'm not sure if that's good or what. I'm not sure if some AI deep into the future is going to be like Emo Gandhi,
We'll
like
come back to bite us.
Let's manifest that in the real world. I'm going to go ahead and close this out, and then I'm going to shut this down, and I'll see you all in the green room in just a moment. Okay. So let's do this. Folks, thank you for tuning in and spending some time with us tonight. Special thanks to, everyone for being great sports and wonderful guests. Highly encourage you to check out all of their work. Links to all of the things that they were mentioning are in the description of the video on YouTube and Rumble, as well as on mirthquake.show. If you would be interested in being part of the Mirth Quake community and I guess on the show, it's very easy. Just head over to mirthquake.show for all the details, and hopefully soon we'll be prying your brain open and throwing it out on the internet for everyone to see, along with Rick Sanchez, Martha Stewart, and Emo Gandhi. Folks, thank you very much. Appreciate you being here, and for everyone that was watching. And we're going to close it out. So, bye.